Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning to everyone around the world who is joining us at this A4Q Congress. My name is Debbie Archer, and I have the pleasure to introduce to you in this next session Mr. Lloyd Roden, who's going to talk about the reality distortion field of testing, a completely intriguing title, and I know that you're all in for a treat. So I'm going to hand over to Lloyd, sit back and enjoy, and we'll come back later for some questions and answers. If you do have a question, pop it into the comment field and I'll try to get Lloyd to address at the end of the presentation. Hopefully we'll have some time. So sit back and enjoy. Over to you, Lloyd.
Thanks, Debbie. Thank you so much for inviting me to this Congress. What a privilege it is to be able to share with you. First thing I'd like to say to everybody listening is I hope you are keeping well. I hope you are keeping safe. And I just hope and pray that we get back to some form of normality in the very near future. This topic is very interesting to me. I hope it's going to be interesting to you. It's called the Reality Distortion Field of Testing. Really strange title, but I'll give you a little bit of background to this title and why I think it's very relevant for us in testing. So a little bit of an introduction, and then I'm going to give you the bad news, which is today's super tester, and then I'm going to give you the good news, which is tomorrow's super tester. Okay, so a little bit of introduction. This presentation was inspired by myself reading Steve Jobs' biography. Those that know me know the fact that I'm not a very good book reader at the best of times, but this really did capture my attention when I started reading. If you've not read his biography, I'd recommend it. Steve Jobs was extremely talented in what he did. Throughout the years of Apple, he was pioneering, in the way of moving things forward in terms of the phone, the smartphone, the MP3 players, the tablets. They were there in the forefront of technology, and really he pushed boundaries within Apple. But the other side to Steve Jobs' character is not so good. He was fairly ruthless with his team. He was heartless at times, particularly when he disowned his daughter, Lisa. And said that she wasn't his daughter, and in fact she was, and then he rescinded that later on in his life. He was very much a dictator, to the Apple community. And one of the things that he was accused of was having a reality distortion field within Apple. And I'm going to read out some of the book to you to give you the background to this presentation. Okay, veterans of the Mac team had learned that they could stand up to Jobs. If they knew what they were talking about, he would tolerate their pushback, even admire it. In 1983, those familiar with the reality distortion field had discovered something further. They could, if necessary, just quietly disregard what he decreed. If they turned out to be right, he would appreciate their renegade attitude and willingness to ignore authority. After all, that's what he did. Now, a little bit further on in the book, they talk about a particular product, and I think some of us probably know about this all too well. Jobs was at the Grand Hyatt in Manhattan preparing for a press preview. So a Sunday morning conference call was scheduled. The software manager calmly explained the situation to Jobs, while Hertzberg and the others huddled around a speakerphone holding their breath. All they needed was an extra 2 weeks. The initial shipment to the dealers could have a version software labeled demo, and they could be replaced as soon as the new code was finished at the end of the month. There was a pause. Jobs didn't get angry. Instead, he spoke in cold, somber terms. He told them that they were really great. So great, in fact, that he knew that they could get this done. There was no way of slipping, he declared. There was collective gasp in the Bradley Building workspace. You guys have been working on this stuff for months now. Another couple of weeks isn't going to make any difference at all. You may as well get over it. I'm going to ship this code a week on Monday with your names on it. Well, they actually got it finished. The reality distortion field is basically, we live in this all the time. It's when people start saying things that we know that can't be done or isn't that important. And people say over and over again, yes, we must estimate testing. Yes, we must produce a test plan. Yes, we've got to produce detailed test scripts. We must automate everything. We should become developers. We need to do DevOps instead of Agile. And if people repeat it over and over again, so many times, we start believing it, even though we know it's not true. So I'm going to share with you the tester of today versus the tester of tomorrow. Okay, and firstly, the bad news. It's always good to have bad news first, and then hopefully I can share some good news. So here's our super fit tester of today. You know, testers out there, your job is to run tests and find bugs. Okay, that's your job in life. It's to run tests and find bugs, and find as many bugs as you possibly can before it goes out to the customer base. So there you go. There's our super fit tester of today, where we're running tests and finding bugs. However, we get sidetracked. We get involved in other things that isn't running tests or finding bugs. Now, I've just got a 3-week sprint as an example, 15 days worth of work. So what type of things do we get involved in that isn't running tests or finding bugs? Well, we get involved in estimation. Okay, now let's suppose, now even in Agile, we get involved in planning meetings, planning poker, breaking things down into tasks, estimating the task. So let's say that we spend a day of that 15 days in estimating testing. That's 7% of our time. We've got to write test plans. Test plans are important. The documentation of a test plan is very important. I've got to say why. Okay, nobody reads them. You know, they take up so much of our time. And, you know, let's be honest, most of us, and I've done this, and I'm sure other people have as well, most of us go along and say, well, we need a test plan for this project. So let's just copy the previous test plan, put a different name on it, change a few words, and it becomes a new test plan. And I put it to you, what's the point in that? So let's just, you know, humor me and say half a day out of 15 of generating, you know, sort of information for the test plans that we have to put together. It's 3.5% of our time now. We've got to produce ideas. The quality of our tests all depend on the quality of the ideas and our test cases. So out of that 15 days, we've got to come up with some sort of idea of what it is we're going to test. And that's known as ISTQB terms. In terms of test conditions and test cases. So let's imagine out of the 15 days, we spend 2 days actually creating this type of documentation. We got to produce scripts. We got to produce these detailed scripts that are basically boring to write, they're boring to run, and they're tedious to maintain. These are the detailed scripts that say, step 1, switch machine on. Step 2, do this. Step 3, check this. Step 4. And basically, you know, that can eat a lot of our time in terms of producing them. Now, I've got some examples of why these are important a bit later on. But let's imagine again 2 days spent generating this test documentation. Our environments are really important, okay? And don't get me wrong, I think sometimes we don't spend as long, too long on test environments. I think we spend a lot less time than we should. I think we should spend more time on creating and maintaining test environments. So let's just, again, think about half a day out of those 15 where we're creating data, we're updating our environments, we're, you know, taking backups of the environments, etc. Just half a day, that's not very much at all. Providing information and reports. I just question sometimes the validity of some of this information. You know, for instance, how many of you out there listening, have you heard your manager say, so how many test cases have you run today? And they're wanting a number, okay? They're wanting a number. And what they're wanting is a very high number, okay? So basically give them a high number because they haven't a clue what a test case is. You know, so I would say, you know, today I've actually run 20,000 test cases. And they go, really? Yeah, 20,000. Every key depression could be a test case, because our managers have no idea. And I think sometimes this information is pointless, and yet we have to produce it. I'm just saying half a day out of that 15 where we're producing information. Attend meetings. Don't get me started on meetings. Attend meetings and respond to emails, okay? I did a presentation over in the States some years ago, and part of that tutorial, I just had a show of hands. I said, okay, so let's see how many emails people get per day. Now, I roughly get about 20 emails thereabouts. So I started low. I started 50 emails, near enough. Every hand went up. Okay, how many people get 100 or more emails? Few hands came down. How many get 200 emails per day or more? A few more hands went down. How many get 300? At that point, I had 3 people with their hands still up. 300 emails a day. And I said to them, I said, I'm sorry, I've got to ask you how many. The most somebody got was 350 emails a day. Really? You know, do you remember the old days when we didn't have emails? I didn't get 350 postal things in the internal post. I went round and talked to people and, you know, face-to-face conversations, which we can't have now, I know, because of COVID. And also meetings. I mean, we have, you know, today, even now, we have meetings on Zoom or Teams. And my son said to me the other day, he said, Dad, he said, I've got so many meetings to go to now within MS Teams. I click leave one meeting and I start another meeting, and it's back-to-back meetings. And I've got to say that, are they really needed? That's a question for you. So I think 4 days is very conservative. I think sometimes it's much more than that in terms of meetings and responding to emails. Let's automate. Let's get into automation. Let's do some automate. Let's do 1 day out of 15 of actually automating some tests for regression. Let's assist developers. That's always a good thing. We're told in Agile that it's collaborative. We need to help with unit testing. They should help us with system testing. That hardly ever happens potentially. And so let's say 2 days out of that 15 days, we spend helping the developers at the lower end of testing, helping them with their unit tests. And please don't get me wrong. I think we need to have collaboration. I think we need to assist developers. Now, if you add up those days, out of the 15 days, that is 94% of our time on other things, which means, and here's our super tester of today, which is very unfit, where basically we've got 6% of our time, if we're lucky, doing what we're meant to do, which is running tests and finding bugs. You know, this tester can't run tests. I don't think this tester can even run. So, you know, I think we've got to think about this reality distortion field of testing. You know, we do a good job, but we do get sidetracked. And sometimes we think, oh, meetings are important. Yes, test plans are important. But I'm going to provide you with an alternative. Okay, so in the next 20 minutes, I'm going to give you the good news. Okay, here we are. This is what I want us to be. I want us to be a lean, fit, powerful super tester. And I am saying that we spend 50% of our time on running tests and finding bugs. So out of 15 days, non-negotiable, we spend 7.5 days running tests and finding bugs. The other 50% is all the peripheral stuff. Okay, so producing high-level charters instead of detailed tests, producing a 1-page test plan with bullet points instead of a 54-page document that no one reads, going to meetings only if they've got an agenda. Okay, if you can't be bothered giving me an agenda for this meeting, I can't be bothered going to it. It's wasting my time. And I think we need to get this stuff in proportion, get this stuff into sort of context, because we are here as testers to run tests and find bugs. Okay, so let's go back. Estimation. Estimation. You know, I've learned so many valuable lessons over the last 20 years that if I had my time again as a test manager, I'd do things very, very different. And one of the things is estimation. I'm maybe it's my age, it probably is, but I've given up arguing with management about estimation. You know, I want 4 weeks, they give me 2 weeks. I want 4 days, they give me 1 day. Fine, I'll do this in 1 day. I'll do this in 1 week. You know, I wanted more time, but you've not given it to me. And this is the consequence, okay? Don't worry about it. We don't estimate things correctly. You see, there is a myth regarding test estimation. The estimation fact is that schedule equals effort plus resource. So I've got 5 days with one person, that will be a schedule of 5 days. Or I've got 5 days with 5 people, that potentially is 1 day schedule, because we can actually do parallel tasks. But with estimating testing, it's a myth, because we haven't included the categorically fundamental aspect of quality. Because there is a direct correlation between the effort that we think with the quality we expect. Managers just do not get it, okay? And I'm sorry if you are a senior manager here, but let me explain what I mean. I need 4 days of testing. There they are. And in that 4-day period, I'm going to give you the platinum service, okay? The platinum service for testing. This guy called Lloyd Roden, who keeps bantering on about quality and estimating quality, I've done my estimation of quality, and in that estimation of 4 days, we as a test team are going to find 80 bugs. But managers don't like that, because 4 days doesn't fit in with the schedule. So as soon as I present my figures of 4 days, I'm cut in half. There you go. I'm sorry, Lloyd, 4 days is not possible. You've only got 2 days. Remember what I said, I don't argue anymore. Okay, I'll have 2 days, but here's the fact. You now get the silver, not the platinum. Okay, that's your choice. Okay, and by the way, instead of 80 bugs, we're only going to find 40 bugs because we've got less time. Now, managers, their eyes light up, because if I find less bugs, we can sign off sooner. Finding more bugs slows things down. So the manager thinks about this a bit more and says, oh, you know, if you've done it in 2 days, I'm sure you can do it in 1 day. Well, we can, but you're only going to get the bronze service, okay? And in that 1 day, my team are only going to find around 20 bugs, okay? That's great. We can sign off early. But here's the thing. Where are the other 60 bugs going? They're going out to the customer base. Now, I don't argue anymore. And I would just put it to managers that you were going to get the platinum service. We were going to find 80 bugs. We were going to, deliver a much better quality piece of software to our customer base. But now you've given me 1 day, I'm only going to find 20 bugs, and our customers are going to find more bugs than we anticipated. Are you happy with that? Because I don't feel comfortable, but it's your choice. So do quick estimates. Don't get too worried about this. You know, we can test in less. Okay, we can. I can test in 1 hour, but I won't do very much. So let's not work ourselves up about this. Let's not spend too long estimating our testing. Okay, so there you go. Let's spend 2 hours per charter, 4 charters a day, and we'll find 10 bugs. Okay, that's a brief estimate. Test plans. Oh, instead of this 50-page test plan, we do this. 1 page, half a page bullet point list of what we're going to do, and then present it. Let me guarantee something when you do this. I will guarantee that you will get questions. You will get people asking questions about that 1-page test plan. You see, before, when we sent out this, we never got any comments whatsoever. A friend of mine in a company felt that his test plans weren't being read. And I'm not advocating you do this, but it's a salient point. He said to me, Lloyd, he said, I'm never, ever going to produce a test plan again. I said to him, why? He said, because no one reads them. And I said, well, you can't be sure of that. And he said, no, I am sure of that, because in my last test plan, I put a whole paragraph about owls in my test plan. There was about 12 lines in the paragraph about how I hate owls. Every owl should be curtailed and killed. We should destroy all the owls on the planet because they're a menace. And he said, I never got a single comment. Now, I'm not advocating doing that at all, but there is a salient point there. That does anyone read them? So this is still a test plan. It's 1 page, it's a bullet point list. And, we spend 2 hours in a 15-day sprint. Okay, there we have it. We're still doing 50% of running tests and finding bugs. Test specs, okay. Test specifications, charters, exploratory testing charters come up with usually ideas. These are high-level statements of what I want to do. Yes, we need to do that to tell people exactly what we're doing in terms of testing. Test cases produce a little bit more detail. Okay, produce them if you need them. As an experienced tester of software, I don't need to be told that I've got to put in this amount of money into a field. I would do it at the time of execution. And when we do scripts, don't produce them unless you've got somebody that needs them to run those scripts. They don't know what they're doing. You need auditability to actually have a record of what you've done, or you need it for automation. Failing that, don't produce them. They're a waste of time. Only automation really stands out in those three. You've got tools that do auditability for you. And basically, if you've got people out there that don't know what they're doing, then basically give them a little bit of information at a time. Get them to think for themselves rather than saying, step 1, switch machine on, step 2, click on icon. Waste of time. So there you go. 3.5 hours. Okay, test environments. Notice I have not changed the environment. In fact, I think this estimate should go up. We've got to keep our environments realistic. We've got to keep them relevant. We've got to have data that has integrity on our environments. And I think sometimes our environments suffer, our test environments suffer because we don't do a good job on them. So I think maybe this number should be increased. Reporting. Okay, we do need to give information, absolutely. Okay, so I've given you proof. At the end of each day, 15 minutes debrief and provide proof. A product assessment, what you think to be the quality of the system you've tested that day, whether you think that's good quality, bad quality, and that needs to be backed up with results, number of defects, severity of the defects. Anything that you need investigating further, I call observations. I would say number of observations we've made. Any obstacles that prevented you from getting that job done, raise it during the proof session. And then what you want to do next, the future plans. And I use this a lot, 15 minutes, give them proof, and that's it. If they need more information, they can come back to you. Move away from this number of test cases. Absolutely ridiculous. I usually say to managers, why are you so het up about number of test cases rather than the quality of the test cases? I think it's much better to ask about the quality of our tests than the number of test cases. So because people just don't have a clue about what a test case is necessarily, especially at the higher level management. There you go. We've still got 50% of running tests and finding bugs. Meetings. Okay. Now this is hard. Okay. This is really hard in terms of meetings, communication, emails, but maybe just spend 1 hour. Just say to yourself, I'm going to just spend an hour doing meetings today, because meetings, we've heard the phrase meetings an alternative to work. If you're bored, if you're tired, if you're fed up, then attend a meeting. I think we've got to have some sort of meeting etiquette. During our execution time, no interruptions, no emails, no text messaging. I think we get so distracted, away from test execution and concentrate on what we're meant to do. So explain to people that this is important. I'm doing a lot of testing and I need to concentrate. So please do not interrupt me. In Teams and that, you've got do not disturb. Put it on so you've got dedicated time. Soon people will understand, okay, that you're not going to be interrupted. And also etiquette in meetings. We can't do this so much now because we often can't see people and what they're doing, especially if they've got their video off. It's like, okay, what are you doing now? You've probably gone for a cup of coffee. But try and bring in some meeting etiquette, and curtail the meeting to succinct time. Automation, maybe 2 days out of 15 on automation. But think about automation in a much broader sense. It's not just test execution, but we've got test design tools that can really help us design tests very quickly. There's a tool that I use, and I'm not advocating this tool. There are other design tools out there, but Test Honor. Test Honor is a great test case design tool, modeling tool. And I know a company that used Test Honor to produce 30,000 test cases at a press of a button, and then they suck those test cases into Selenium with another button, a macro, and then overnight 30,000 test cases are run. That's true automation, where you've got a press a button in a model, you then run those test cases. There's a tool out there called Instabug, which is fantastic for mobile applications, where it makes it easy for customers, end users, to raise bugs by just shaking their mobile device. So make it work for you. Anything that you, when you're doing testing, if you find things are boring, there's usually some form of automation that can take that boredom away for you. Now, please remember that. If nothing else, if you are testing, if nothing else, and you're sitting there testing, you think, oh, crumbs, this is boring. There's usually a tool out there that will take that boredom away. Because I tell you now, the manual testing of systems where we're finding defects, running our tests, that is so interesting. I find it incredibly interesting to try and, in a sense, break the software, doing the what if scenarios. And we've still got it, 50% there of running tests and finding bugs. Now, the thing that we've got left, and I said to you we should assist developers, that's about a day now rather than 2 days. That's 7.5% of our time, where we're helping them with unit testing. But this is yin and yang. You know, we need to have a balance here. You know, so if we help developers, then surely we expect developers to help us. That's the yin and yang. So when we help them at unit level testing and help them with the automation and spend time there with debugging the bugs that we found with them to find the root cause, then when we come to do system level testing, then maybe they should help us. Okay, and then if we do that, the numbers can go up because, you know, they're helping us do the running tests and finding defects. I've heard so many companies moving to a DevOps arena, and you might be one of those companies now. You may have already moved to a DevOps. I don't have a problem with DevOps. I think DevOps can work in certain industries. The thing I have a problem with is when it goes so far, or too far, should I say, when companies say we no longer need testers. The testers can become developers, and then we'll fix defects in production. We had this situation 35 years ago when I was a developer. We never had a test team. Basically, we did some development, and as a developer, I can't even remember doing any testing, to be honest. I did development, and then I just put it in production. That's what we did in those days. And it was like, okay, see if this works then. Oh, okay, that's crashed the system. Let's fix it. That's what we did 35 years ago. But let me tell you the difference between 35 years ago and today. Those systems 35 years ago were batch systems. All they did was run batch processing that produce reports or policy documents or letters. And it wasn't such an issue if something went wrong. We just fixed it and run the reports again. We're not in that situation today. So be very, very careful. I tell you now, if, and I use this very, very lightly, but if Boeing said, we're getting rid of testers, and you know what? You know, we'll just put things in production in our aircraft and we'll let it go in the sky. And if we have a problem, we'll fix it in the sky. I wouldn't fly. Okay, so we've got to be aware of the context we're in and the risks involved. Okay, so we've now got 50% to run tests and find bugs. You know, this is non-negotiable as far as I'm concerned. This is our job as testers. And I think we often get sidetracked. We often have that reality distortion field where we suddenly move into this arena where other things encroach on our time. And I've been there where at the end of the day, you say, what did I do today? Can't even, oh yeah, I went to that meeting. Oh yeah, I did that report. Oh, and you didn't do any testing. So this is our Superfit Tester of tomorrow. 50% manual exploratory testing, finding bugs, gaining confidence, saving money, happier customers, and happier testers. I'm just getting into a concept at the moment called soap opera testing. It's not new. It was produced by a guy in Belgium called Hans Bravado. And soap opera testing is coming up with very extreme scenarios to see if our software can cope with them. And it's based upon soap operas that we have on our televisions, where we condense a week in the life of a particular group of people into a half an hour soap opera session. And here's a soap opera. Okay, now maybe your system can cope with this. Maybe you've never ever thought about this, but here you go. Man meets woman. Man falls in love with woman. Man and woman get married. Man and woman a year later have a baby. A year later, the man falls out of love with woman, and woman falls out of love with man, and they get divorced. A year later, the man becomes a woman. That's a soap opera. Now you're sitting there thinking, come on, Lloyd, this is happening. This is today. My brother is a financial advisor, and well, about 2 years ago, he called me up and we had a conversation. He said, Lloyd, I've had the strangest conversation. Insurance broker, he said, a guy called Tom called him up. And he said, Martin, this is Tom here. Don't know if you remember me. And he said, oh, yeah, I do remember you. Yeah, you've done a lot of my life cover and life assurance, etc. over the years. He said, I've got some news for you. And my brother said, what is it, Tom? He said, my name is now Wendy. My brother said to me, in that moment, he just seriously didn't know what to say. He didn't know whether to say, well, I'm really sorry you didn't like being a man, or congratulations on becoming a woman, and after the initial sort of embarrassment and the quietness, my brother said, okay, we'll sort things out. But he said to me, he said, Lloyd, it poses a very interesting conundrum for the insurance company. He said, because all insurance, and particularly life assurance, all insurance is based upon the sex. The life cover is based on the sex. Statistically speaking, and I'm sorry, guys, but women live longer than men. Okay, statistically speaking, women live longer than men. So when you're doing life cover, the life premiums are different because women are living longer than men. So what happens now that this Tom becomes Wendy and legally is now a woman? How does the insurance company cope with this? That's interesting. Now, I know when you raise a defect and say, oh, I've got this person that's become a woman and our system doesn't, and your developers will then say, oh, come on, seriously, how many, this happens. And this is the fun stuff. And this is what we're missing out when it comes to getting sidetracked into the other stuff. What do you do now? We've come to the end of the presentation. What do we do now? Well, think about your own reality distortion fields that you end up in everyday sort of your everyday situation at work. Think of the things that when people say over and over and over again, this can be done, and yet it can't be done, how you're led into that. Think about this rule. Think about this 50% rule as testers. Just dedicate 50% of your time running tests and finding bugs. See how that could change. I'm going to leave you with a story, and it's personal to me. And it's about choosing your battles. Those of you out there that got children, particularly young children, that life is a constant battle. I've got 3 grandchildren, and my eldest grandson is now nearly 4. And oh my word, he's a whirlwind. If I don't die of old age, I'm going to die running after my grandson. Just can't cope catching up with him. But, when we've got young children, things are a constant battle. I want my hair blue. I want my hair green. I want my hair pink. And, oh, you can't have that. When my daughter was 12 years old, she came home from school and she said, Dad, she said, I want my ears pierced. Now, all good fathers like myself, what do? No, you're not having your ears pierced. You're too young to have your ears pierced. And oh, she started crying. And then my wife came in. What's up? And then it was like, oh, Dad's not letting me have my ears pierced. And I said, no, she's too young. And then my wife backed me up, not by saying, what's wrong with her ears being pierced? I mean, if it hurts and, she'll get over it, and, 12 years old, she doesn't like it, she just takes them out and they'll heal up. Don't, she said to me, chill. So she got her ears pierced at 12 years old. A year later, she came home from school and she said, Dad, I want my belly button pierced. Now, remember what I did before. I said no, and I got a lot of grief from my wife. So I thought, if I say no again, I'm going to get a lot of grief from my wife. So I said yes. My daughter, she couldn't believe it. What? I said, yeah, no problem. Same. My wife came home and she said to me, she said, why is Hannah so happy? I said, oh, she's getting a belly button pierced. Oh, my word. My wife went up the wall. She said, what have you done? I said, well, you said ears pierced was okay. I said, it's the same. It's piercing. It's just in a different part of her body. She got a belly button pierced at the age of 13. And, you know, I got it in the neck from my wife. And then at the age of 14, she came home from school and said, Dad, I want a tattoo. No way. No way. And my wife backed me up. And in this country, you can't get a tattoo without your parents' consent until you're 18 years old. Let me tell you, on her 18th birthday, she went out, she came back, and she said to me, Dad, she got a tattoo on her back. She's 32 now. And a couple of years ago, we was having a conversation, and I said, Dad, I said, that tattoo. Oh, Dad, she said, I regret it. Told you so. But anyway, you need to choose your battles, and you need to choose your battles at work as well. I just hope you found this informative. I hope you found it challenging. Please think about your reality distortion field, happy testing, and just enjoy it. Have fun. Goodness sake, life is too short not to have fun in our workplaces. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoy the rest of the Congress. I hope you've enjoyed this session. I've just gone slightly over. I'm really sorry, Debbie, just by 5 minutes. So I think this presentation is available. So over to you, Debbie.
Thank you so much. It's like having a fireside chat with you when you're talking about things which are related to very personal things and what have you. I hope everybody enjoyed the presentation. We've had some really good feedback and some questions here. So first of all, Jorge asking the question, where is exploratory testing included? In the first 50% of run tests, the first 50% run tests and find bugs, and the second half of 50% of doing other activities.
Okay. Well, yeah, it will be parts in terms of doing the exploratory testing. It will be in the 50% of running tests and finding bugs. The thing that you will be doing in the other 50% is the documentation. And that's what I'm saying, is that rather than having these huge documentation of test conditions, cases and scripts, just have exploratory testing charters. I produce exploratory testing charters in about 10 minutes for about 3 hours of test execution. That's the sort of balance we should have in terms of test documentation. So we still should produce them, but it's very lightweight.
We have a question from Carlos. Thank you, Jorge, for your question. Carlos, can you mention the names of the apps, programs that you use to write test cases?
Yeah, I can send you a link, Debbie, if that's going to be helpful when you put it on the website. But the one I tend to use a lot is a tool called Testona. It's called Testona, and it's a modeling tool that helps you model your tests, the system that you're testing, and then it will generate test cases automatically from that model. And then it will also generate a spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet with all the documented test case at a press of a button. And from that Excel spreadsheet, you can then use test execution tools to suck that data in, and using a data-driven approach. And that's really what I think we ought to be looking at there.
We've just put it on the bottom of the screen there. Testona, Lloyd?
Correct. Yep. Testona. Okay. There is a free version. It's called Testona Lite. And it gives you all the facilities of modeling and generating test cases manually. But all the bells and whistles come with a professional version of it. But it can save you huge amounts of time.
That's lovely. Just sharing some of the other feedback here. So, Natalia, thank you for your presentation. One of my
thank you. Bless you.
Lovely.
Yeah, if you want your managers to watch it, send the YouTube link or whatever, and tell them to watch it, definitely. So.
And Jorge, I think this is a follow-up to his previous question. Yeah. How do you still the 50% of the time for the run and find bugs when developers are late with their deliverables of the code, especially in the sprint?
Well, yeah, this is going back to my estimation, where suddenly we want 4 days and we're left with 1 day.
Mm.
And I think, in that situation, when the developers are delayed, we could get involved early on and help developers in unit testing. That could, in a sense, be part of the execution, and we could use exploratory testing during the unit testing as well to help them. But it is very difficult, when developers, are then delayed, and it gives us a squeeze, as I call it, in testing. It makes our life a lot more difficult. And our execution time is obviously going to come down. And remember what I said on the estimation. I do not argue anymore. And literally, if developers are late and I'm given 1 day to test, then basically the quality that we deliver to the customer is going to be much worse, because of I don't have enough time. And managers need to deal with that. This is not my problem. Managers need to take hold of that and deal with that.
The question for you: what if I have limited resources and the need to work on multiple projects? How can automation work?
Yeah, I do sympathise with this. I've only got 1 tester and they're working on 27 projects. How does this work? It's difficult. I've got a sort of a passion about the fact that when we diversify, when we have people that are spread on multiple projects, their productivity tends to shrink because they're task swapping. And try to avoid this if you can, but I know in some organizations that is not possible. We just have limited time, limited personnel. So what I'd say is that if you're working 50% on this project and 30% on this project and 20% on this project, use the same formula. Okay, the 50% rule, I've got 50% of that 50% on running tests, and on the 20%, I've got 50% of that 20%, and try to do it that way. But I know it's very difficult. And there's a good book out there called Slack by Tom DeMarco, and he goes into detail about the problem with task switching and the problem with people working on multiple projects and with switching. And if you're working in Kanban, Kanban tries to avoid this by having work in progress limits, which limits your number of tasks that you are working on at any one time. So very good book, that Slack by Tom DeMarco.
We'll try to make a note of that in the comment section too. We'll look it up very quickly. Another question for you. Our managers want us to move away from manual testing and concentrate on test automation. What's the problem with that?
Where do I start? I've seen companies where senior managers have said, okay, our objective next year is to automate 90% of our tests. I say to managers this: if you can guarantee to me that the customers are going to do exactly what our automation is doing, then I'll do it. But if you can't guarantee that, because automation, all it does is go through set paths of our system. So we run our automation, it goes through this path. We run automation, it goes through this path. So if we are guaranteed that our customers are going to do exactly what the automation will do, then fine, automate everything. But I think our managers don't know that. We don't know what the customers. Who would have thought about a man becoming a woman, for instance? Who would have thought about the what if scenarios? Who would have thought about switching a machine off as it's doing an update because we could end up having a power cut? And I think managers need to be aware that automation is great, but automation doesn't find bugs. Automation gives us confidence that that path will work.
One final question, if we can squeeze it in. Yeah. Are there any other types of reality distortion fields that exist in the workplace?
I think this is the answer. The simple answer is yes. The long answer is yes. I think for us in organizations, when we hear people saying to us to do something over and over and over again, and we know that can't be done, we know, then and we just go along with it. I think that's becoming the reality distortion field. We sort of half-heartedly say, you know, well, this is never going to work, but you know, I'll do it anyway. That becomes a reality distortion field. It sort of, you know, blurs our vision on us, and we come across, you know, meetings. I mean, you know, is every meeting important? Seriously, you know, I was run over with meetings. You know, I'd come home from work and I say to my wife, you know, what did I do today? And I had 7 meetings that were not really profitable. And everyone likes to go to meetings because they don't want to be the odd one out. They don't want to be missed out of the meeting just in case something's said and they need to be there. And I think sometimes we just say, no, I'm not going. I'm not going to the meeting. Maybe you won't be missed. There was one meeting, there was a progress meeting. I didn't turn up for that for about 3 months. Nobody missed me. So I just think, well, if you're not missing me, I'm not going. So yeah, we got them all around us. We got them in everyday walks of life as well, in our homes and that, when, you know, we know that something can't be done, and yet people are telling us it can.
I think Patricia enjoyed that. Thank you. Lloyd, thank you so much for being with us.
Hey,
Lloyd is going to hopefully come and join me at the ISKI booth in the Congress for a few moments.
I will.
Whichever one we're going to, at the bar in the Congress Hall. Andrea, could you just pop on screen the link to the Congress Hall, perhaps? There you go. I think I've got it here. There we go. So is that the right one? Join us. Come and have a chat with Lloyd. And if there's anything you want to ask him, he'll be at the ISKI booth. So we'll go to the bar later. But Lloyd, I just want to say a huge thank you. Interesting, and as I say, it's a little bit like a fireside chat with you often, and forget there's people around. Some things to think about.
As I said to you earlier, Debbie, this is the die-hard slot. People are around at 6 o'clock in the UK, 7 o'clock in Europe, 8 o'clock Eastern European time. I mean, this is the die-hard group. Okay, so hopefully they've had fun. So,
smashing! Thank you so much, and we'll catch up soon, Lloyd. Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye, Debbie. Take care. See you, everybody. Bye.